One of the key factors that play a pivotal role in a region's economic growth is the presence of an efficient transportation system. This is due to the fact that a well-developed transportation system provides access to business, schools, medical facilities, and leisure. This is the reason LAMATA was established.
Inadequate transportation, on the other hand, can affect a nation's ability to utilize its resources. This is why we are bringing the topic public transportation and national development with our panel of experts.
I am Obafemi Craig.
I am Kate Harmony. Join us after the break.
This is the news update on LAMATA FR. The Managing Director of Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA, Dr. Dayo Mobriola, has stressed the importance of tree planting to life and healthy living. Speaking at the 2014 tree planting campaign in Lagos, Dr. Mobriola, who represented Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola SAN, at one of the ceremonial sites, said the global environment had been ravaged by eco-degradation, leading to climate change, the cumulative effect of years of environmental negligence on man's part. He stressed the need for a concerted efforts to repair and restore the environment by ensuring constant tree planting in the fight against environmental problems, including global warming.
It is therefore expedient that we put in our best efforts to rehabilitate the environment. Trees are known to make a huge impact in the fight against environmental problems, including global warming.
On the foreign scene, 20 people were reportedly killed and more than 100 injured when a metro train derailed in Moscow. Of the 106 people hospitalized, 50 are in critical condition. The incident took place during the morning rush hour. 3 metro train cars derailed while in an underground tunnel. It was not clear what caused the derailment, but the head of Moscow's transportation department said it was not a terrorist attack. That was the news update. More to come after the break.
Basically, what LAMATA does is to coordinate public transportation in Lagos State, and we came up with a transport master plan.
Developed together with the World Bank, the objective of this plan is finding long-lasting solutions for the problem of transportation in Lagos. Currently under its first steps of development, the plan has already proven itself a big success, dramatically increasing the connectivity in a city in continuous expansion and enjoying an unparalleled demographic and economic growth.
Our responsibility is to ensure that we provide the necessary infrastructure to meet the growth, to improve the quality of life, to improve the standard of living, and to make Lagos a vibrant and livable city in years to come.
LAMATA, think transport.
All over the world, transportation plays an important role in the growth, development, and sustainability of national economies. As agent of change, it has been used by many nations to achieve the transformation of their everyday life and existence. It is indeed the integrating factor and fulcrum that holds together all the facets of any developed nation. This explains why developed nations have made transportation a priority agenda. Issues about transport policy, transport planning, transport infrastructure implementation, management and enforcement of traffic regulations and laws are given so much preference as issues of national security and healthcare. According to urban planners and city developers, transportation as an agent of national development and growth serves both as anchor and propeller for a sustainable economy as no development effort can be made by any responsive government if not anchored on the transformational wheel of transport. In Nigeria, like any other developing country, there has been absence of concerted and coordinated effort and policy either at the national or subnational level to approach transportation as a development tool. Over the years, efforts at tackling the sector's challenges have been fragmented among different agencies and authorities, which oftentimes work at cross purposes. As effort is being made to attain true development as a nation or state, socially, economically, religiously, in recreation or otherwise, there is the need for governments at national and subnational levels to rethink the pivotal role that transportation will play in the overall process. Also, urban developers, city planners, transport planners and other related professionals must also heed the wake-up call and work together to ensure the achievement of true development that is sustainable.
Welcome back. Joining us today on our discussion are the National Executive Director, Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, Mr. Francis Ehigwese. You're most welcome.
It's my pleasure being here. Thank you.
We also have with us a seasoned lecturer in the School of Transport, Lagos State University, Dr. Charles Asiname. You're also welcome.
Thank you very much.
And not leaving out the technical advisor, Lamata Planning, Dr. Frederick Oladende. You're also welcome.
Thank you very much.
Well, gentlemen, let's start by understanding the words, the keywords here, public transportation and national planning. Mr. Francis Ehigwese, you want to fly off that with us?
Yeah, public transport is the act of science of moving people using public means of movement, particularly within urban and, of course, cities. It is completely different from car ridership, private car owner ridership. It is completely different from a small unit of movement of people. It has to do with a higher capacity of a vehicle moving many at the same time. That's what public transportation is all about. As against what we see, of course, in Nigeria, where you have many people with private car ownership, as against, of course, the movement of people, EMAs. That is what public transportation is all about. And in terms of planning, it's talking about, we're looking at the coordination, the articulation of transportation within the perspective of moving people EMAs, as against, of course, car ownership and private ridership.
Just to buttress what he has said, moving people from one point to another point using different modes. And the essence of public transport is to move as many people as possible. But like the situation that we have here, we have little buses moving some few number of people, and they will call them mass transit. I used to see those funny inscriptions written on 14-seater buses. So in public transportation, we have different modes, moving people on charging particular fares and on fixed routes. It has to be articulated, it has to be planned, it has to be integrated with public transport.
So, talking about national development, Dr. Oladende, what is your take on national development?
Okay, development actually means improving the welfare of the society through political, economic, and social conditions. Now, this impacts on people's human and physical capacity. Okay, what do I mean by human capacity? Human capacity in terms of the level of education, the level of income. Physical capacity or capital in terms of the infrastructure that a country or a state owns. We can look at telecommunications, we can look at public utilities, transportation is also a good example. Now, because of the intense use of infrastructure by the transport sector, transportation is seen as a very important component of the economy. And in fact, transportation is used to drive development in states, in countries, in communities. This is very important because when you look at the global world, transportation is important because every economic opportunity is linked to mobility of people, is linked to goods and information. So, in a nutshell, transportation drives development.
One thing is sure, that you cannot divulge transport away from development.
Okay.
It is actually a catalyst to development. In terms of public transportation, linking it to development, I want to start from this perspective. Let's start from the social perspective.
Okay.
That without transport, interaction between people and places, of course, will not be there. Transport is a link between people and their social interaction. That's one. In terms of economic, people will not move from their houses to their workplaces without transportation. No business will thrive without transportation.
That's correct.
No government political system will move without transportation. And particularly with public transport, which we advocate as against, again, this crazy for private car ownership, or small unit of, like Asanema was saying, the minute buses, they now ride, mass transit or what have you. Public transport is key to national development in the sense that we are looking at more people getting access to opportunities without necessarily owning their own vehicles. We are looking at people gaining access to employment without the use of what? Of private cars, without actually degrading the whole place, without polluting the whole place.
Exactly.
You see, at the end of the day, everybody benefits. So it becomes a collective development as against the few we can see. So there is no way you can divulge public transportation from development. Let me use this. I was in the UK and I was asking Dr. Caviallo, she came to talk to us on public transportation. Yeah. That's for the past 5 years, she has never owned her own private car. She depends on what? Public transport. And she enjoys it. She sees it as a burden owning what? A private car. While the developed economy, they are moving towards this public transport use. In this part of the world, we are still looking at car ownership, where from the point of status symbol, you see a Nigerian having about 5 cars. Some ladies will even change their dress, to the color of their cars. It is an aberration of your concept, of your total feeling, and again, an aberration when it comes to the national concept. The leader must see beyond this and create infrastructure and create a system that the public will believe in, and create a safe and secure system that Nigerians will be able to access. Affordable transport that people can say, it's safe, it's secure, it's affordable.
Convenient.
I connect it with development. It means my scarce resources will no longer be used. I will use it for something else.
Okay.
That's right.
Dr. Oladeyinde, what's your take on this? Because I believe there should be an infrastructure in place, because if we're going to compare what is going on in Nigeria to what we have in developed cities, you see that there's a legislation on ground. There's a provision of infrastructure by the government. So I want to know, what's the role of the government in this?
Well, first of all, the government needs to have a blueprint, needs to have a plan. Okay. And the difference between what we do in the developing countries and what happens in the developed world is that you have the urban planner. These are people that plan your cities, and transport planners work together. Now, the reason why they don't need cars that much in the UK is because every community is within about 800 meters to 1 kilometer from a public transport station. So if we can have that in Nigeria, I mean, you look at some communities, they're cut off from the transport system.
Yes.
And so they have no option other than to use cars. So if we can plan with urban developers in such a way that every community is connected to the network, then we won't be talking about what we're talking today. Okay. So it's very, I mean, planning, we need to plan.
Okay.
The government needs to put in place policies that would discourage people from using cars. Policies such as maybe charging people that use their cars on the road. So you pay maybe road tax, you pay environmental tax, etc. But everything should be geared towards making sure that we have a good public transport system as an alternative.
What about the provision of the infrastructure?
The provision of the infrastructure, I mean, I don't believe that the government should provide all the infrastructure, but the government needs to be sure, needs to be sure that it has a plan in place for the infrastructure that's required. I think we need to invite the private sector to participate more in providing infrastructure for Lagos State or Nigeria as a whole. And that's something that's lacking right now. I think the government needs to create an environment for the private sector to come in and participate. Okay. And in that way we can generate more funds to develop the infrastructure that's required.
But don't you think, Dr. Frederick, that before that can come into place, the essentiality of any government by its requirement in its existence is the provision of social amenities, things that will make life comfortable first to the people before we can think of private investors coming to say, yes, with this in place, I can invest my money. So this is where we're looking at the relationship now between public transportation, like you rightly said, to drive the economy, but then national development also counts. So how do you marry this?
I think one thing you've left out of your description is the fact that we have scarce resources. And the government can provide the basic amenities required, but I mean, let's take, for example, Lagos State, where we have a huge population explosion, and we need huge funds to actually provide for these people. I don't see anything wrong in the government partnering with the private sector in generating funds to provide basic amenities for the public.
Dr. Silman, if the government do not provide what is essentially first for them to do basically, would investors be interested?
Yeah, investors will be interested if the terrain is good enough for them to come in.
If
the terrain is good enough for them to come in. The way policy changes, when the government comes and they cancel what the other government is doing, that is a problem. Look at the situation we have in Lagos State, for instance. If not for continuity, that the previous government and the present government is continuing from where that one stopped. Most of the projects you've seen executed by Lamata and other agencies, you won't see them happening. Now, I just want to go back a bit to what Mr. Higuesi told us earlier on about having cars as being a status thing. This problem actually started from government a long time ago when the Udoji Award was given out about 1973.
That's a long time.
They gave out car loans that people should go and get their cars, whereby there is no road to drive those cars. Now, we start having cars. I remember my dad bought a Yamaha 100. About 17 naira then, 100 naira. Cars all over the estate. And before you knew it, the roads started getting congested. So what you're experiencing now started a long time ago. Now, if you want the private sector to come in to provide some of the infrastructure, like you rightly said, there must be an enabling environment for them to come in. Not when they have invested their money, then one other governor comes and said, no, I won't take it. I want to bring in my people. Then there's a problem. So the reason why sometimes the private sector kind of, they are suspicious about government because of this epileptic
I was going to come to that.
Yes.
I want to know, what is the role of structural change? What's the effect of structural change in public transportation and national development?
It's affected a lot.
Okay.
You know, if we look at transport first as a catalyst for development, somebody rightly said some time ago that you can't escape from transport.
You can't.
You
You can't.
You cannot.
Because everything, even from a child, the woman is carrying the baby in the womb. They take you by transport to the hospital. You give birth to the baby, you come back home, you die, they take you by coffin, inside coffin to the graveside. It's all transport.
Yeah.
So if there's a policy change that affects a particular structure, setup, let's look at this, the Blue Line, for instance. Okay, for those who are not in Lagos, they may not know what the Blue Line is. The mass transit rail.
That's the first phase of
Yeah,
the
that
Real
the
Line.
Lamata is trying to execute. If some other person comes and said, I don't want it, then we'll be in trouble. Because the essence of that project is to increase the passenger capacity of that corridor so that we can let people live as far as Okoko or Badagry and come to work in Victoria Island comfortably, affordability. But when there's a problem of structure, somebody comes in and said, I'm not part of the government, I want to cancel it, then we'll have a problem.
Dr. Ladende, so
Yes, that
how do we ensure continuity?
Well, as I said previously, it's very important that you have a master plan, a plan that the government signs up to, a plan that is ratified by law. And then when the next government comes, then he continues from that. It's very difficult for a government to come in, especially, when a plan has been ratified and then we've started building, constructing from that plan to just, truncate it and then start something else. Once we have a plan in place, everybody knows where they're going. Every stakeholder has bought into that plan. Then it's very difficult to just truncate that plan.
Are you saying that other projects that have been dumped, so to speak, didn't have a master plan?
To my knowledge, you see, when you carry out a project, you need to understand what that project is contributing to the society, how that project links to other projects or how it links to other society, and what the benefit it brings to the benefit it brings to the people. But when you have a project in isolation, you don't understand its impact, you don't know what the benefit would be. It's very easy to kill it.
It's been an in-depth discussion on the topic, public transportation and national development. Given to time constraint, we'll bring you the concluding part on our next episode. So bye for now.
Lagos, my home. With Lamata, Lagos is changing for the best. BRT lanes, modern rail lines, pedestrian bridges, new roads. Mega city, yeah. Lagos, my home. Lagos, my home. With Lamata, Lagos is changing for the best. For the best. Lamata is facilitating Lagos with